All right. Good morning. Good morning. We are live on socials. Let me get the Discord set up here. It always takes just a little bit. Let me get up on the stage and all that. All right. Good morning, Discord. I see Charlie and I see Carrie. Are you guys able to hear or see my screen? I hope. One thing I do want to add really quick here. Just want to open up this watch list app that I made. And all right, so basically this is the watch list for the day. Let me make sure it's not obscured by the camera as well. So I haven't looked at anything yet. I haven't looked at the pre-market stuff other than the large cap stuff. I put out Team, Intel, and Ulta. Obviously, Intel has its Microsoft. They're trying to get an offer from Microsoft, basically. So didn't look too much into it, but I saw that there's a lot of potential here on the price, and they had a pretty substantial move back on the 18th. So 8 days ago, 7 days ago. Hey, what's up, Nikki? Good morning. Sound and sight good. Okay, appreciate that. Let me move my Discord out of the way so I can see social media comments as well. So yeah, so this is just a little app that I made locally. So it pulls up the larger cap watch list. So I'll leave that up here for a little bit. And then it pulls up Lee's watch list here. So he's got PSTV, ATCH again, LAC again, SPRC. So let me check ATCH because that one we like. We know it. We love it. Let me switch back here to the 2-minute time frame as well. I still have my levels drawn on this one yesterday, so it kind of came up into these zones and rejected, and then it's kind of getting caught down here so far for another potential bounce. So let me see. He's got a 701 or ATCH. Yeah, I'm looking at the wrong one. Sorry. 83 cent level. So he's looking for a break out of this zone right up into there, and then a target of 88 cents. So right at the base of this. So we kind of end up with similar levels. We haven't talked about this stock at all. So it's kind of funny that we get the same ranges. And then LAC, obviously that one. So this one I sold for a small profit on my last share. I traded it a couple times yesterday. Let me log in so I can actually see the records on that. So this one I sold kind of flat. I think it was like 3.5% up or something. So I bought some here, sold here, bought some here, sold here. And on the second one, I bought 2 shares, and then I sold the last share here after hours before I had to leave for about a 3.5% profit on that last share. And then obviously this morning it would have been up higher, but that's okay. I don't really care. So you got to be careful about that FOMO. If you do end up selling something, make sure you do it with conviction and don't second guess your decision. So the reason I sold is because I wanted all cash today, minus my 1 share of bull that I'm holding for swing trade. So I'm not about to beat myself up just because this one happens to have pushed, because it's still right back around, it's not very high up. But the key takeaway here, you guys are still able to hear me, is that the zones that I drew, right? I drew this kind of inside zone and I drew an outside zone. So the yellow, hey, alarm clock, how you doing? He likes zones. He gets excited. So the zones that I drew here kind of held, right? And I drew these early in the morning. I didn't have to do anything super crazy. I have an inside one and an outside one, and I was waiting for a zone recovery algo to jump into this so that we could trade the breakout. And it just happened. It happened to work, but it was like 4 o'clock in the morning Eastern, and I'm not about to be looking at a stock at 4 o'clock Eastern. But you guys can see the potential there. Did hold up, but then the 641 level that we drew kind of came back and caused another bounce. So there's an area of violence right here that I want to draw. So I'll draw like right about there. So it's kind of a bigger one. Technically it's 2 smaller ones, but we'll see. Now this could also serve as a transient level and just push back into this range right here. The price may just want to come back down here, and that's okay too. That's why we just get in and out of these. SPRC is another good one. We love trading that one. It's got to be going up though, right? So it's kind of going down right now, and we got the zone right here that it likes to hang out in. And obviously there's a huge zone of violence right here, and there's another one right up here. So we're just kind of in the middle of the 2 zones. So Lee's got a $5.71 and a $6 range. So $5.71, I'll just draw that one really quick. So that would be his entry threshold. And then $6 is the target for his first target. So I like this one. I have a bunch of lines in here, so I'm going to erase a bunch of these because I just don't like having a bunch of lines. And we'll see how it goes. But you guys can see there is some value in the way that we draw these levels, whether it's Lee's approach, my approach, it doesn't really matter. We're both looking for slightly different things, but we're looking in similar areas, and that's what matters. Because when we do that, the rest of the market tends to do that, because we're all sorry, we're all blind to each other. Like I don't sit there and watch Lee plot out his watch list in the morning. So if he comes up with similar levels on similar stocks, then I kind of like knowing that, you know. So I think I'm going to grab a share a little bit early here on SPRC. I'm just going to grab a little $5 share if I can get filled. I like what it's doing. I'm probably going to miss my entry, and that's okay. Also, let me make sure I'm not muted on StreamYard, because I do that all the time. Or it likes to mute me, I should say. So if this doesn't come back and get filled, that's okay. I'll just let it go, because we can always trade this one on the way back up. Happy World Dream Day. Ooh, okay. What did we all dream about? Sorry, I gotta like shuffle it. I hate this chair so much. So it looks like SPRC is gonna be on my list. I'm gonna close these apps right here. Let me screenshot these for everybody, just so you guys have them as well. Sorry, I gotta set a timer on this thing, because it likes to where'd it go? Oh. I'm so bad at using this. All right, let me set a 3-second timer. I hit Control-N to do the new screenshot thing. There we go. Sorry, I'm just trying to screen cap these watch list alerts for you. Oh, what's up, Nick? How's it going? Good morning. Good morning. Yeah, I'm kind of looking for this one. I would like to get in if it wants to give me anything, but let me just also redraw my. So this zone here is going to be a transient one. So let me just change the color on that one to like a darker blue. I would really like to see it break out of this area here, and then above that. You can see it held historically. We had a big move, and then we had another big move off of that. So we have another one here, but that's close enough to this transient zone. So if we get a little pullback and then a push, I'd be happy. Otherwise, we'll just kind of have to hang out and see what we get. So I haven't really looked at much other than that. I'm just kind of go to the pre-market here. So SPRC is in the top 3. That's good. Yeah, I think I'm just going to cancel my buy order. And sometimes that happens too. You know, I wanted to take a more aggressive entry on this pullback, but that's okay. I can always trade another opportunity on it. I don't really want to buy it right here just yet. I at least want to see how this candle kind of plays out. And then we'll see what we get. So PEPG, I'm not going to be trading that. That's just garbage. But let me kind of zoom out, and I'll show you guys, you know, just how simple analysis can and should be. And if you were on the stream yesterday, you guys would know exactly why I'm drawing these boxes where I'm drawing them. And I think that maybe we get one right here as well. Yeah, I like that. So these are really close together. The volume to market cap ratio is kind of trash. It's like a 1-to-4. Not really happy with this one. So I don't think I'm going to be jumping into this one just yet. Maybe after market open. We'll see. We're in auction cross right now. I can't trade PSTV on this account. Plus it's pulling down. It would just require too much money. And this is a small cash account. So I can't trade a 61-cent stock on Webull, because I'd have to buy 100 shares. So. All right, so it looks like this candle's kind of puttering around here in this wick territory. So I'm going to get my buy order ready. I might grab 2 shares on this one. I was kind of expecting it to sell off, but we'll see what it actually does. And then let's see, what was the other level here? We had a 635, right? So if I don't see a confirmation on it, I'm not going to jump in at this point, because it's a different type of trade. I was just trying to catch this little 4% candle move right there. So we'll see. I'm just going to keep an eye on it. Obviously, the order book is sparse. There's not really anything on here except for one wall at $7. We're kind of in that in-between zone where there's structural and volume dynamics at play, but mostly it's structural. So when we make the transition over to volume, then I'll be happier. I kind of like it here, but it's warming up. It's growing on me a little bit, but it just isn't quite ready yet, in my opinion. ABSI, what do you like about that one, Nick? The forecast. Yep. Hmm. I will check that out in just a moment. Yeah, I think I'm going to go ahead and grab some SPRC here. Obviously, it's a little bit riskier because I'm not waiting for the confirmation. But I kind of like what I'm seeing here, and we're about to head into market open. So I'm going to be a little bit cautious, but I think I like the push away that we're getting here. Let's see what else we got. Yeah, there's really not a whole lot of good in the market right now, pre-market. It's just one of those weird mornings again where ooh, I might like a push out of this zone. Yeah, I think I like that. What is this? I'm going to buy 2 shares of that as well. And I'm not too worried about, if it, if it pushes up to here, it's going to push up to here. So I'm not too worried about getting a super tight entry on that one. The only thing I have to be cautious about is when market opens, right? So I'm coming out of an area of high potential with historical violence. I've got decent enough volume. It's increasing, right? And I've got a good setup into market open. Whether or not that bites me in the butt, I don't know. But I have hotkeys set up for when the market is open. So we shall see. Plus, I'm okay to add a couple to some of these trades. Like this one, I'd probably add some down here, around 5 if it can hold 5, or just below it or on the way back up. But I'm not going to be holding this one down to like $3 unless it halts and I get stuck. We'll see. So I feel like PEPG and SPRC are probably the only 2 that I'm going to be looking at today. WAC has potential, but it's also it's a like 15-cent stock. It's garbage. Doesn't mean there's not potential there, but I don't like trading it. The rest of these just don't have the volume, right? Even this one, the ones that I'm trading don't really have good volume. So it is unfortunately, it's another one of those like risky days where maybe it's better just to wait until like 9:45, 10 o'clock. But I trade pretty aggressively on this account, and you guys know that. So there's a disclaimer: don't copy me. I've been green every day this week, but that is also the result of position size management and locking profits while they're there. So, yeah, PEPG has, I think it's got pretty solid potential. Now it's got to get through this box, this yellow box here. So let me draw that, and I will make it a dashed line so we know. We want to see the price push through that zone. If it comes back here, we want to see it bounce out of this zone. If it comes down here, we want to see it bounce out of that zone. Anything outside of that, I don't really want to deal with it. So I'm taking kind of aggressive positions here. These are both $11 positions. I have about $30, $33 in settled cash. So I'm okay to add like 1 more share to each of these, and that's about it. So market is currently open. Let me switch this over to the 1-day, and then I'll just get my hotkeys ready, and we'll see where the violence takes us. And I have PEPG pulled up on the screen right now. The other stock I'm in is SPRC. So we'll see. All right, looks like SPRC is showing us a little bit of violence here. There's first target on Lee's watch list. About 5% up on that one. And again, I'm trading a little bit more aggressively, so I'm going to hold for higher targets. But if you're just trading Lee's watch list, those sell orders should have already been in place. Because I don't want you guys to lose your profits just because of what I'm doing. Okay. So you're well above first target now. So you could be locking the majority of your shares right there. All right, looks like PEPG is getting some action too. Now remember, this has to go through this box. I don't want it to hang out and get sticky here. I don't want it to reject out of here to the downside. I just want a nice, clean, easy pass through. And I don't see anything really on the order book here until about 6:41, which is fine. That's a structural thing. I don't really care too much about that. So let's see what the market gives us. Yeah, I think our 2 tickers here are going to be the ones with the best potential, or the best opportunity, I should say, for maybe the next 10 minutes or so. Yeah, CPOP. Yeah, that one's kind of up and coming. I was looking down here at the ranges on these. That's a nice one. It's sketchy though, like there's not a lot of data to work with there, but I do like that single candle scalp. And if that's what you do, more power to you. But stuff like that, as long as you keep those stops nice and tight, you're good in a lot of cases. I just don't think I'll be able to trade that one. Actually, you know what? I'll grab one here if I can get filled, just for fun. Actually, I'll grab two. And we'll show you guys just how to scalp single candles. You just got to look for certain things. So I'm going to sell one share right here. I'm just selling it nice and tight, just getting in and out. And this one right here is about break even. So I'm just going to exit completely on that one. And that's how you would scalp traditionally. You would just look for, you'd watch the volume, the time in sales, and feel free to watch the recording over and over again so you guys can kind of see what I was looking for up here in the top right on the ask, as well as the orders that were coming through in the time in sales. I look for two things. I look for a good mix of speed and color. So I want to see the time in sales moving quickly, like right here. It's moving quickly, but it's not quite ready yet. And then I want to see order size. So I'm going to grab another share right here. See how it slowed down on me? I don't like that. So I might have to cut this. And that's how you do it. You would just get in and out immediately. If it doesn't go, now I'm staying in this obviously to talk through it as I go. But if you're a traditional scalper and you see something about to go and you get in because that's the thing that's going to make you money, and then it stops doing the thing that's going to make you money, you would just cut it immediately. You wouldn't have any emotions or hesitation because you wouldn't be building a position down like this. So I'll add one more share and then I'll exit this one if it pops, because I see what I'd like. I see my little Christmas trees lighting up and I see orders getting chopped out of the ask here. So that's good for me. I also see that SPRC is pushing a little bit more. So I'll come back to that. And again, we're right back at first target. So if you're watching MadMaverick's watch list, you would be securing most of your shares at this point to get those profits. All right. So it looks like CPAP. That was a good catch, by the way. So thank you for that. I like these. Now, in theory, this should present a 3-bar. What was the range on that? That was 19 cents. So let's see if we can get that up here to about there. So about $1.95. So we'll see. We'll see if we get that. Now, some of these are just kind of pushing and pulling. All right, we're back on social media as well. Okay, yeah, sorry about that. My internet just decided it wanted to play games. So sorry about that. I'm going to sell one of my shares of CPOP here if I can get filled. I'm actually going to move this down to just underneath. Well, I'll leave it where it is. We'll get filled. And then I have one share remaining as a runner. I'm going to sell that at 10%. Don't really care for it. Just want to kind of get in and out of those. So switching back to PEPG. Yeah, so I was saying that, what was the last thing you guys heard before I repeat myself all over the place? Because I will. Did that make sense about CPOP though? Like it was starting to do the thing that makes me money. So I get in, and when it stops doing that, I get out. And that's as complicated as trading ever needs to be. And that's it. So now I have bigger positions here on SPRC and PEPG. So I got to be a little more cognizant of what they're doing. But they're showing signs of strength, so I'm comfortable holding them so far. PEPG is a little shaky, but SPRC is obviously making multiple attempts to push over this level here It's breached over this high. Basically, we just need to close and then some more volume above there to get up to where we'd like to be. And in terms of percentage P&L, I'm not going to make a whole bunch of money on the CPOP, like 1 or 2 shares at a time, even though they go bigger percent ranges. I like that. I just wish it would clear over that zone. Because they're super small positions. So it doesn't matter that it went, 10% or whatever. It was a great trade on dollars invested. That was great. But those are the ones that are high risk. So I use super small position to make sure that if they do go against me, that I don't lose a whole bunch of money and then outweigh my overall, directional and relatively stable wins on the other stocks. Because this can also go 10% plus. So we'll see where it actually goes. And then PEPG again, there's just kind of ping-ponging between these two ranges, and that's okay. I'm okay to add like 1 more share, but I don't want to commit too much to either of these. And I've already taken relatively larger position sizes. So I had, I want to say it's like $33 or $30 in settled cash because I'm holding this 1 share of bull. So I don't want to go 2 balls to the wall with the upfront buys right in the market open, So it looks like we're picking up some steam here on SPRC. So we'll see if that gives us another sustained push and a break over like 650-ish, maybe 7. Basically, if we can get up here, we should be hunting a new high. That's the theory. So we'll see if that's what it actually gives us. Also, I have to move my chair. I'm like super far away from my desk. I'm like leaning forward. UVIX pushing up. Yeah, there's target 2, by the way. Let's check out UVIX. That's the 2 times ETF for the VIX. So this one's always good. When the volume is there, that is, right? So now you got this kind of gap here that you got to deal with. It's good. Like if this one can break over this range that it's kind of in, get over maybe like 1130, 1150, I might have to sell some of that before it halts. All right, I'm going to lock one of my shares here on SPRC just because I don't want that to potentially halt on volume. It's not going to break until it hits like 10% on 1 candle. But if it moves very quickly over a short amount of time, that could trigger a circuit breaker, and I don't want to get caught in that. So back to UVIX. Yeah, I mean, if it could just break over this high right here, for example, if it can sustain over that, much like we're seeing here on SPRC on the 2-minute, it had this chop right here, and as soon as it broke over that, you get a nice clean push up to 650, and that's that's the kind of thing that we like to look for. So I like it. And that's, that's obviously going to go up with the VIX. So that's a 2 times leverage ETF. So now I'm just kind of watching PEPG. It's getting a little bit more of the volume now that SPRC is kind of stagnated. Do you guys see that as a halt? Like I don't see the flag on my end, but I don't see the time and sales moving, and I see order shuffling around in the order book. I'm assuming that's a halt. It should be Occam's razor and whatnot, but it's not showing it as an actual halt yet on my end. That's weird. All right, so we're kind of pushing down into the range a little bit. This is kind of like pulling a slingshot back. If it decides to get bought up and push, then each of these attempts that it breaks out of this box makes it more potent, right? And you can see this box up here that I drew, the one where we had the violence before. This is acting as it's an area of friction, right? It's like catching the price, absorbing it, and letting it fall back down. It's not pushing it down necessarily. It's just letting it fall down. And then, there's this zone down here, which is stronger and ideally bigger and more potent. And that should push the price and reject it violently. So think of these as like 2 ping pong paddles that are getting closer together, and the ball is just like speeding up as it goes. So if one of the paddles moves, obviously the ball's going to go off on the floor. That's what this zone down here is for. However, if one of the paddles decides to slap the ball, then the ball's going to go farther in that direction. So we'll have to wait and see. Now, it's been down here before and then it moved up. So we'll see if it gets bought up again, or if the person that was defending, and by person, I mean the algo that was defending this zone is no longer willing to defend. SPRC, did it finally show up as a halt? I still don't see it as a halt. I can see it's halted. Like that's like it's hasn't moved, and I'm not digging at you. I'm digging at Weeble. Like this is clearly a halt, but I don't see the flag for it. So it's like, what are you guys doing? And also, I want to point out that I'm holding one share of bull as a trade across session. So I'm holding it as a swing trade. It's down 4% today, and it's a $14 position. So the day's P&L is offset by 84 cents. So this in reality is like $1.70 or something up, which would be about 3% up for the day because of SPRC. All right, so we're seeing a little sign of life here so far. What's CPOP at, by the way? Okay, so it kind of topped out a little bit short term, right? Doesn't mean it can't still go. It just means that it got some friction after we got out. And let me just check one thing real fast. Cool. All right. All right, so we'll just kind of zoom out on that one, see what it does. And then this one here, the last order here was 939.36, so 944.36. That's a 5-minute threshold. Then we can start to look. So we got about a minute left before potential unhalt on SPRC. So we'll see what that gives us. And what do we got? We got 31 people in here. Everybody put your guess in the chat as far as how much settled cash I have left on this account. The account total is $58.95. And I'm curious what you guys think. How much do you think I have in settled cash on this small cash account? We'll do Price is Right style. So whoever gets it closest without going over gets the bonus points. Charlie hasn't counted trade. That's okay. Just a guess. Just a guess. Now, again, I want to remind you guys, it's a $59 account. I'm holding a $14 share of bull plus a $5.75 share of SPRC plus two $5.94 shares of PEPG. So I've got at least, half the account as used, right? I've used at least half of it. All right, so we're unhalted. We're up 670, 680. The price hasn't updated yet. There we go. Okay. So we're getting some answers here. All right, I'll give you guys another minute. Okay, it's 9:45 now, so 9:46. I'll cut it off. Whoever gets it close without going over is the winner. The winner. One of your take profits had an SPRC. Beautiful. That's good stuff. I love it. Nikki says 350. She knows me so well. $6 in a good faith violation. I mean, technically, it's all cash. All right, we're about 25% up. I think I'm going to go ahead and lock mine here. I don't care if it continues. It can. It probably will. It's got a lot of strength, and normally I would. But I'd like to just re-enter after a retest of this area. I just want to lock it in right here and then see how it's going to react to this break of high. I don't just want to blindly hold because it broke the high. All right, we got 10 seconds left. Put your guesses in there. Again, how much settled cash do you think I have on this account? It's a $59 account. Just slap it in there. I'm curious. All right, it's 9:46. It's over. The answer was $13 and I think 87 cents. So it looks like NG wins that one. Don't have a giveaway. That was not a giveaway. I'm sorry. But maybe we'll work on something for you. Yeah, so your answer was $5. So that was the closest to that going over. And then there was Nikki with 350 as second place. But yeah, congrats. You won. You get some brownie points. I'm just kidding. Let's let's see, what is PEPG doing? All right, so it is breaching the low of this range, which is okay, right? We got one more below it. So again, if it comes down and then it pushes out of that box, then I'll add one more share. And then I'll call it if it, because I don't want to add it all the way down here. That would be silly. But I will use this zone right here as a potential stick point. And if it pulls up anytime before then, like if it just decides to randomly turn around and go up, I'll just let it go. I'm not going to add more to it at that point. That wouldn't fit. Next up, how many monsters has Pookie had this morning? All of them. Every single one. It looks like it's just catching these wicks over here so far. LAC fell. Yeah, let's take a look. Yeah, so remember these this range that I kind of drew yesterday. This is a transient level here. If the price doesn't respond with violence to the upside, it's likely to fall back to this range right here that we drew out yesterday. And you can see that's where it spent most of its, almost the entire day yesterday, was in this zone right here between these four boxes. So let me make this a bit different. I'm going to make this like a darker, I'll make it like a purplish, right? So again, the price did get caught here. It blasted out of here earlier at 4:30 in the morning, and then it got caught around 7 a.m. and popped back up into this level. And then it's just now kind of getting caught again. So maybe it will, maybe it won't. And that's why we wait for those confirmations, because if we pull Lee's watch list here, not that one, this one, he's got an entry threshold at 701. So if we draw our line at 701, maybe we get an entry on this one, but the stop loss is there, right? We have to use a stop loss in those situations. So what is his stop loss was 671. So the price is currently, here's 671 right here. The price is currently down in the 650. So we wouldn't be holding that if we were watching like Lee's watch list, for example. Obviously I'm trading these a different way, but it's the same concept. We have to catch the price when it's going the direction that we want it to go, and then let it do its thing. And if it wants to do the other thing, then we get out. But that's nice. So I like SPRC. Again, it's kind of reacting to this zone. I don't want it to plummet. So if I get another push over, maybe over like 716-ish, maybe I'll take another bite. Yeah, Mr. OG, that would be a stop out. But the entry has the same potential as everything that works out, right? And that's the point, is it's not to just win every single trade. He had his level here at 701, and he likes to wait for a 2 or 3 minute candle close. Now, you could argue that it's, the first of the day, it's super high risk, and maybe you pass on that one. But it did have potential here. We did get a candle close in high volume, and we had the stop loss down here at 671. So that all makes sense, but you had an entry, and then it simply happened to stop out because it went the other way after we would have gotten in. And that happens, it's all part of the trading game. So in reality, you also had a, what was the target on that one? It was 8, I think. So he's looking for an almost a whole $1 in terms of the target, right? So $8 target range in exchange for, what is this? 30 cent risk, right? So it depends. You're going to have losses, and you got to minimize them. But you also want the thing to be able to breathe a little bit if that's your approach. So it depends. SPRC is pulling down a little harder. So again, this is normal, right? We want to see some pullback. We want to see some cooling off. Doesn't mean it's due for it, but we can draw some zones, and we can, base our decisions on what we see. I'm just going to get rid of that fib. So I'll see how it reacts to this zone. And this is a fib retracement zone, so it's going to be a little bit, a little bit woo-woo, right? I don't necessarily subscribe to just blindly buying fibs, because I'd rather just look for where price has shown violence before that just halted again. So we'll check back at 951. Well, maybe it's still filling everything, but see, now it shows up as an actual halt. So 956.22, we'll check back on that one. PEPG is kind of just doing its thing. It's hanging out. This is a sticky zone. And what I don't want to happen is for the volume to completely fall off, because that's what that's when we get stuck. ATCH is setting up for its day. Yeah, I can't trade it though on this account. I like this one. I like the zones, but I can't trade it because it would require me to buy $83 worth, and I don't have that much in settled cash on this account. DVLT, Fergie says. Let's take a look. Ooh, okay. This looks like a top special. What do you like about Data Vault? Then again, this is one I can't trade. I have to wait till it gets over $1, but I do like the violence on it. So, it's got a bunch of shares and it's got about half as many restricted. So you got to be careful with the catalyst. So I'd have to look at the company if I wanted to hold this, but this is one I'd just trade it nice and tight because you're going to have these violent chops. Like when the price moves, it's going to chop. It's going to like jump forward. So you got to be careful with that. But I like the potential on this one. You can see it's doing a little bit, but I'd get in and then I'd get out like very quickly. I would get out either very, very tight stop loss or reasonably good enough target on that one, just like we did at CPOP, right? We didn't have to hold CPOP very long because it was high risk. We didn't want to hold it very long. We just grabbed what we could. Like right here, for example, that's a 3.5–4% candle. I would just take most of my profits right there to guarantee a net profit. And my stop loss would be like down here because I don't want to hold stuff like that. It doesn't mean there's not a way to do that, but on like a live stream where there's newer traders and things like that, when you see something like this or CPOP, you just kind of want to get in and out in most cases. And that's why. That's CPOP. If we don't get out, you get stuck in stuff. And that's not fun for anybody. SPRC is pulling down into that halt again. It's going to stay there for another, what do we got, about 3 minutes, 2.5 minutes on that one. NUAI, yep, that's another one we like. You prefer the desktop? You never had a desktop before? That's awesome. And NUAI, we traded this one just above $1, right? We grabbed that one. I want to say was it Friday or Monday? I don't remember. My brain shut off. But I think we got like a little piece of that one or something. I can't remember exactly what we did, but we definitely did something with this one. It's a good one when it's directional, just like the other ones. Looks like PEPG is pulling back to this zone. Looks like it's going to make a commitment here to push to lows. And then we'll see if it gets caught over here in this zone of historical violence. If it does, great. If not, that's okay too. Sometimes I just take a hit on these and that's okay. Yeah, all week. Fergie says, I keep a tight stop. Yeah. Oh, also, I had to make sure that when I got my internet connection back, I had to rejoin the StreamYard, and I wanted to make sure it didn't mute me because I forgot to do that. It likes to mess me up sometimes. So, all right. Looks like, let's see here. I'm just kind of keeping an eye on these. EVAX has good volume to market cap ratio. It's a 1-2. And so does WALK, but I don't like the price action on these. Like this is too messy. So the argument can be made, but I don't want to make it. You know what I mean? So, all right, we'll see what PEPG does here in a second, and then we will move forward with haste if it doesn't give me what I want. And you can see I've got this massive drawdown. It's 13% down, 12% down. Still net positive for the day, right? So I do all the profit locking ahead of time, and then this is a sizable position. It's an $11, $12 stock or a position almost, and it's lost almost $2 so far. Or what is this, like $1.50, right? So now I just have to figure out what I want to do with this position. So do I want to average down, or do I want to cut it? And I'm going to wait and see what it does. And then if it decides to give me what I'm looking for, I'll add another piece. But I'm not going to just blindly buy because I see two big red candles, because that's not a dip buy. That's a fool. That's a fool buy. When I see two big red candles, I stop buying stuff for a minute and I see what kind of reaction it's going to have to those two candles. So we technically haven't entered the zone yet. So now we did. So I'll see if we can get a bounce off of that. And again, if I miss my buy and it goes up here, that's okay. I'm not going to feel bad about that. But the fact that we've touched this zone, now I want to see it break over this guy at least, or push down further into the zone and actually test the zone. And that's how you get out of those anticipation buys, is you say, okay, well, here's a trigger. Now we could buy as soon as it pops out of the box if we want just a little wick buy, or we can wait until it closes over something that's nearby. So we can say, okay, at least we moved away from the box enough before I can consider that it's going to potentially reverse. Because if it's going to go all the way up here in reverse, it's going to break over this candle, right? So you don't have to get the absolute bottom price on everything, especially when you're trying to deal with a position that's, you know, a little bit deeper in the red. Because that's what people do. They add a bunch of money to a red position way too fast. and then it just gets more and more red because they can't wait for confirmations and wait for signs of strength because they just see FOMO and they don't want the opportunity to cost them their opportunity. So SPRC is struggling a little bit as well. I'm not going to buy this one. I'm just kind of watching to see what it does. And again, this is why we lock our profits, guys. This is like this one and CPOP, right? We got in, we got out, we walked away. We don't want to hold on to these forever because I bought this one somewhere around here, you know, or maybe I think it was up here somewhere. And now it's lower than the pre-market, you know, so don't do that to yourselves. Now, if this one wants to push out of the box, maybe, but I'd rather look at PEPG. And I'm going to grab my third share here on PEPG because we broke over this the high of this red candle, right? So it shows me there's a directional change out of an area of high potential, and it's got a relatively sizable candle here on slightly less volume, which means that the candle is more pure, like it's more disproportionately asked though. So that to me is a confirmation. So I'm okay to add one more share. And if I have to, I can add at least one more share and that'll be the last buy. Let me catch up on the chat here. Who you calling people? It's me, I'm people. Mr. Nib, what are you guys' thoughts about the market right now? Everything is red. That is it though? I mean, we're making money. I'm up a little bit today. If you're looking at big tech, yeah, you're going to see some blood. And that's just because it's been on such a tear lately. You know, we're heading into the end of September. You know, you're starting up the tax loss harvesting area. You've got all these geopolitical catalysts going on. You've got tech advancements, for example. You got the government, like Jay Powell, for example, saying that, you know, AI and all these other industry professionals saying that AI is not in a position to really clamp down and remove a bunch of jobs. Like tech is going to be a little less enthusiastic than it has been earlier in the summer. And there's just more potential to the downside right now. So that's where the market's likely to take it short term. So it depends. Like that's the dual nature of the market. Like everything has to go up and down. Like it can't just go up and it can't just go down. That doesn't mean it's owed or that it's going to happen at any specific time or in any specific way. It just means that things go both directions and we have to accept that. So in conditions like this, there are plenty of options. We can do, you know, we can trade inverse ETFs. We can trade options, protective puts. There's all kinds of ways that we can manage that drawdown. And drawdown isn't bad. Like losses are not bad in the general sense because people don't see them as more than, oh, I lost money, right? It's like, I always kind of joke about it. I say it's like corn. It's not goodbye, it's see you later. Because when you lose and you realize that loss, when you sell something for a loss, you take a capital loss. It's a realized capital loss. And those offset your capital gains that you realize throughout the year as well. And then that helps you at tax time. And that's where tax loss harvesting comes in. Now, if you're in a smaller account, you're not really going to care too much about that. But you don't really lose that money unless you wash sale it into the end of the year and it's disallowed. But people tend to have a really, I don't know, I want to say like maybe a misaligned view about what losses are. But tech pulling back isn't, you know, I wouldn't say that's the end of the world. You're just seeing a little bit more volatility than you're used to, right? So for Tesla, for example, it blasted out of the zones. Like the analysis still holds true. It blasted out of the zones. It was up higher before, so we're just forming a lower high at this point. It consolidated a little bit and then it kind of pulled down. So if you look at Microsoft, for example, if I can, we've been going sideways for quite a while in all sense of things. Now this is kind of a wider range. It's about $60 range, but it's up at $500 as well. So you're just over 10% range on that. But most of the time, Microsoft kind of channels to the upside. It just kind of drifts upward a little bit. And then recently, early in the year, you had this massive move from like 345 up to 550. And that is huge. That's a huge rally to the upside. You're going to see some pullback on that, So I wouldn't really call it red. It's just not moving upward as aggressively as we would like or that we're used to. So INTC, for example, this one is 3.3% up and it's pushing new high. So I wouldn't say new high overall. I'm just saying new high for the relative move, right? And that's because of their potential offer and things. I have so many boxes drawn on this one. So it's not really all bad. It's just context and perspective. AMD is down 2.6% for the day. That's not bad, right? That's a $156 stock. NVIDIA, let's see where that one's at. It's down 0.5%, but it's going sideways. It's still in this range. There's just nothing to do with it. You know what I mean? So what a lot of the market does is it goes to small caps and micro caps. And that's kind of where I trade these in the morning. We just look for zones. We look for price to displace violently, and then we look to get in and out along those moves of displacement. And that's all I care about. Now I'm on a small cash account, and these are not the ones you want to dip buy on. If you want to build down a position for a reversal, that's great, but you don't buy them just because they're red. Because if we go back to like CPOP, I wonder where that one's at. Yeah, you don't want to dip buy something like this. That's not good. SPRC, that pulled down. That's a pullback, right? I wouldn't necessarily call that a dip buy, but it did blast out of the area that we plotted, and we plotted it for a specific reason. And now we have another area above that is also validating. So it's higher risk, right? So it really just boils down to having a plan and then following it and not really caring too much about what the market is doing, because again, if you're looking at like IBM, I can't use this. This information isn't readable for me on the 2 minute, so I have to go up to maybe the 15 minute. Even this is garbage. I can't trade it. I have to go to the 30 minute. I can't trade this. I have to go up to the 1 hour. I like this. This is a little bit cleaner. I can see the displacements. I can see where price turns around and things like that. But I think the best area to start in here is probably going to be the weekly. This is a nice clean chart. So that's a very loud vehicle. Condolences to that car's wife. But if I just draw these zones, like, let me just zoom all the way out here, and I just want to see where the price spikes from. Where does the price absolutely launch from? I've got a zone right here. Okay. I've got a zone right here, and I've got kind of a zone right here, but that's transitory, right? Because it's got bidirectional bisection, and then you've got this zone kind of right here, and then you've got this area down here. Let me see if I can draw that. Probably have to redraw. I actually like that where it's at. So right now on IBM, on the weekly chart, we're just in new territory because we pushed so aggressively. There's no data up here, so I don't want to lecture too much about tech, but it's pushing up. Like it's up for the day. It's pushing up in an attempt to do a V-shaped recovery and push over a new high. I would call that strength. And yes, it's going to affect the rest of the market. So if we click over here, you could see the S&P's down maybe 0.5%, Dow's down 1/4, Nasdaq's down just under 1%. The Shenzhen's up, more than 0.5%, and Shanghai's break even. So it just it depends on what you're looking at. So rather than looking at the market as a whole and viewing it as down, let's look at one specific stock and see if we can find an opportunity on it, and then see if that opportunity makes sense, because there is stock sympathy. There is sector bias and all that good stuff. But if you're not swing trading, none of that's going to matter, because if you're day trading, you're only going to look for the volume, and you're going to trade with the volume, and you're going to get out when the volume is still there, so that you're not the last one out the door. Okay. So if we wanted to look at SPRC, for example, the volume started to surge back in here, but it's not the herd that we're looking for. I'm looking for the big group of buffalo that I can chase, and I don't want to get trampled. So I kind of want to follow along, and then when they start turning around, I want to climb a tree and just get out of it. I have that option to just exit at that point. I don't want to end up like Mufasa. Not all cats land on their feet, So in this case, all these little low float garbage stocks and the micro caps and all that, they're pulling down at the moment because the herd is kind of slowing down. There's no motivator for it to run. And when that happens, the herd kind of spreads out and you see little bits of volume here and there, little pieces, little chunks of participation that kind of ebbs and flows. But we really want to see that participation just surge in and go. Like we want to see it all consolidated in one spot. And this is true for the micro caps. It's true for tech as well, right? And we see that every time there's like one big shift in tech, like 2 or 3 of the tickers get almost all the attention. And then when things slow down on them, like Tesla, NVIDIA, and AMD, then the rest of them tend to get the volume, right? And then they move up. So there's a little bit of a shift that happens within tech as well. And that's no different really than what we see here in the morning in the low float garbage stuff. So, this one pushed out of our zone. That's all we asked for on increasing volume, right? Easy confirmation. Now we're pushing up into this test territory, this range where the price has recently broken down. So if it can push through that and go higher, that's great. We did the same thing over here on this, right? Because we had the same exact setup. We had a high, we had a little bit of a pullback, we had a break out of an area of violence right here. And then we pushed to a new high. And then now we're pulling back. We broke up and we're challenging the high. And we halted. So we can't do anything with that. But that's the same concept. And anytime you see a new high, you're going to see that. Because in order for it to push a new high, it has to push into new territory where the price hasn't been. And now that that's halted, right? That's the top 2 stocks here, PEPG and SPRC. That volume, those algos are going to pull off that stock, or they're going to continue to monitor it, but then they're going to look for somewhere else to go. They're going to disperse a little bit. And if enough of that dispersion happens to land in my stock, PEPG, we'll get a surge in volume, and that should drive the price up or down. It depends on which one has better potential. So now that I know that's halted, I'm going to look at these, and I'm just going to train my eyeballs and say, okay, well, which ones are flickering the most? Which ones are changing the most? I've got WAC here. I've got PSTV, I've got EVAX, which is getting quite a bit of attention. I see this flickering around a lot. And I see NUAI. So I believe, just based on what I'm seeing here, NUAI is likely to get most of the attention. So this is one I'd watch. I'm not going to trade it, but I'm just saying this is one that we can watch. And we'll just put a little line there. And I know I've got about a 5-minute window before that volume potentially ebbs back out. So 10:15. Oops, I got to... So it's 10:09. I can't draw that. Sorry. To 10:14. So when this candle hits, we have the potential to be a new high or new low, right? And this is just a simple volume following analysis here. Crispy took profits on NUAI already at 130. Beautiful, sir. You got some runners left, so you're guaranteed a net profit. You locked some profits just before the high as it was pushing, I assume, not on the way back? Or did you wait till it peaked and then pulled back? Which is fine too. I'm just curious. Cool. So you sold off into the strength as it was moving. Beautiful. I love it. Now this is a push-pull-push scenario. So if we get a push to the upside, we should seek a new high. Therefore, it's worth taking one share right here for me. I like it at 125. I'm seeing what I like on the order book, and the time and sale is a little slow, but I like it enough, and I've got a thesis, right? It's a shallow pullback, blah, 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 but we should see some of the surplus volume from SPRC pushing over into PEPG, NUAI, EVAX, WAC, and PSTV in theory, right? That's always going to seek the higher runners. But it also, within these, it's going to look for the specific ones that have had the shorter term moves. So if one of these just pops randomly, that's likely to get most of that attention because it's going to act like a flare. It's just going to attract everything. So this may happen here, and that's okay. I'm not looking for huge profits on this. I'm just looking to get in and out in one share. So, and while that's cooking, let me just check something real fast here. All right, cool. And just peek back over here at PEPG. So the volume on this one's kind of trickling down. So I really just want to watch the volume on this and see if I can get increasing volume. So here to here was increasing. That's 151K volume. Not great, but it's not bad. So now I need a greater than 151 in the volume, right? Ideally, we get a 4% candle with like 250,000 or higher, but that's kind of rare when there's no volume. So we'll see what we get. Looks like NUAI is showing a little bit of violence here as well. We'll see if we get bought up on this one or if it wants to do a deeper retrace. And guess what happens if this becomes a deeper retrace? We get a bear flag, right? That's how bear flags form. You get the initial push, you get the initial pullback, a lower high, lower low, lower high, lower. That's a bull flag, right? And then you get a break of that for the continuation, or it retraces all the way down and then you don't get a reversal. And then you just take the loss in that case, if you don't plan to average down. So I don't want to deal with a bull flag. So if it breaks below 121, I'll just get out. And I have my hotkey ready just for that. And then if it wants to do the bear flag break and the bull flag break and all that, I don't care because I'm out of it, right? My decision making has to be based on what I see because I don't have access to any of this information over here. We got about 45 seconds left before what's his face, SPRC. Actually, what was the time on that one? It was 31. So yeah, that should be unhalted, actually. That should be good to go. That's interesting that it didn't yet. There we go. It just unhalted. So there we go. So it's going to push up. It's going to drag some more volume back down to these algos. You know, and then we get kind of one last chance here for these little guys to get some of that volume. And then that could propel it upward. It could not. Who knows? But what I'm seeing here is decaying volume. So I probably don't want to hold this too long, which is why I set my stop loss in place. Now, I know, right, no matter what I do with this $1.20, 125, right? No matter what I do with the $1.25, I can't use it again for the day. So there's nothing wrong. Like I don't need to sell it just because it didn't move. But what I can do is put a stop loss in place and just let it work itself out. So if I get a break below 120, right? Let me put a bracket in place here. Do 120 and then a 134 take profit, right? Now, I don't need to make any more decisions. I can erase all my lines. I can close my broker and walk away because I know that at the end of the day, only one of two things is going to happen. I'm either going to sell this for a 10-cent profit or I'm going to sell this for a 4 or 5 cent loss. And that's all I care about. So it looks like it hit the stop loss and that's okay. Because again, if you don't respect a stop loss or if you beat yourself up when something runs after you stop out and then you don't look at something like CPOP and be like, wow, I'm glad I stopped out. You're going to have a bias in your brain and that's going to get in the way of your decision making. So you got to be very careful about that. So again, we get in and out. And I've still got this huge drawdown, right? Put huge in quotes in my account and it's still net positive, right? I just took a loss. You guys watched me take a loss, but it was small. It was a high risk loss. So I used a super small position and I kept it relatively tight considering. And that's all I got to do, right? Delicious. So you guys have watched me take multiple losses this week, and I've still been green every day. It's not by much because I'm giving a good chunk of those profits back in some cases. But you guys still watch me be, you know, I've taken a bunch of like 20% losses on sizable positions. And I just offset it, right? And that's the goal. So we're going to have this little double bottom setup. 712 to break here. What are you looking at? You're looking at PEPG? Oh, LAC. Okay. Yeah, let's look at LAC real fast. We do like that one. That's nice. I like that one. I can't trade that on this account. I mean, I probably could. I think I have like 770 left in settled cash, but yeah, I mean, this is nice. It's, again, these zones do stuff, Like, I'm not just drawing these randomly. You know, I teach a strategy on these streams, and it's pretty easy for you guys to replicate because you're zooming out, right? Okay. And then you're just drawing areas where the price has moved violently from if it's got sideways movement before it. Like right here is perfect. I don't know if you guys can see that. Let me, actually, I'll just screenshot that really fast. And we'll just zoom in on that. Okay. So you guys see this right here, right? That consolidation where the price just kind of does the chop sideways. Just put a 1 in the chat if you can, 2 if you can't. Maybe I'll zoom in a little bit. Like, you guys see that? Okay. And then you see the massive move out of that box, right? And then the price comes back to it, bounces, comes back to it, bounces, and then it comes back and does more chop, more consolidation. I'm not going to draw what you guys think I'm going to draw. Nice try, Porter. But you guys see how it chops again, and then it moves violently away from that box. So if I draw a zone right there, based on that criteria, and then you see it pulls back and it rejects violently from that zone again, that level has value. That's something that we can use. It's a range. So if I just draw this, again, right where I just drew those lines, and then I make this like orange so we can see it, you know, if the price pushes up here, we're likely to see a reaction at that area. And if that reaction is just a clean push through, then it should act as a support when it comes back. But more than likely, we're going to see some more of that chop, that sideways stuff in this box. So that's why we want to draw those zones ahead of time, ideally in a higher time frame so they're stronger. But that's why we do that, so that we can identify where the likely moves are going to come from. So like right here, for example, right here, we've got another chop zone with a displacement away from it. And we're seeing friction right here. Let me make this a yellow box so we can see it. You guys see this, right? The price pushed through it cleanly, acted as a support, just like I said this one should. Came down, bounced, came down, pushed right through it as a transient level. And then we got another push through, another push through, another push through, and then it chopped right here. And this is where it changes from a transient level to a reversal level. You get the chop, and then it failed displacement, and then it pushed through. There's just not enough volume at this point. And then it chops, 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 chops. And then you get a violent move away on more volume. And then it acted as a resistance here, and it pushed away violently down into this box, which is already established. And then it pushed away again, but it was a smaller bounce, right? So this is where we can start to look for breakouts. And this is what people call a cup and handle. This is not a good cup and handle, though. It doesn't have a rounded bottom. It's a V-shaped recovery with a smaller, higher low. But this zone right here has potential. So we can form a thesis and build a trade off of that. So if it breaks to the downside, we can expect, in theory, a move down to the purple box. If it breaks above, we can expect, in theory, a move up to the orange box. So at this point, all I have to do is wait for the chart to tell me it's time to get in if I want to trade this, and then keep my risk nice and tight because it should work. But if it doesn't, I have to account for that. So let's see if we get a violent rejection to the downside and we go down to the purple box. But I know that the price doesn't want to be here very long. It wants to pull the price in and then slap it away one direction or the other. So at this point, all I have to do is figure out where I'd like to see it go. I'm going to erase those lines, by the way. Right? So far it's showing bearish tendency, which means I'm not going to get into it if I'm a long trader, a bull, because that just wouldn't make any sense. So we just got to wait. And this is the hardest part about trading for a lot of people, is just being patient. So let's watch and see what it does. I don't have any other actions to take here, right? I mean, I could jump in right now if I want. I would have just stopped out right there. Death Gun, 1 of 2 trades sold at a loss. Second one is still live. What are you trading right now, buddy? Let's walk through it. EVAX. EVAX is moving. Yeah, I mean, I like this one for what it is. So let's do some analysis, right? We'll repeat the whole process. So where has price displaced violently from on this stock? I can see that there's a bunch of chop right here, and then it pushed right here. That's kind of a wider range. And then I can see that the price pushed away violently right here from that zone, right? And then we got kind of a move right here. I'd say like right there. And then we got a lot of chop and stuff, but there's no real movements. There's no displacements out of this area here, right? So now if I zoom back in, I could say, okay, well, the price is pulling down, right? But we've got this area down here where it should show some reaction, right? So if the price comes back down here, we can look for a push. And then, we can look for another move down and then another push, right? So there's always that option. And then if it breaks to the upside, I know I've got this zone up here, which also has potential to show a reaction and then a rejection to the downside. So that's where I should probably look to take targets. So if I want to get in, I want to get in when it's breaking out of this zone, and I want to get out as it's pushing into this zone, or at least reduce my position and guarantee a net profit. If it pushes down to this box, I want to wait till it's breaking out of that box and go to that box. And I want to just keep it simple. Like, trading doesn't need to be complicated, especially your entries and exits. It's all psychology and position management, and that's where people hurt themselves. Does this strategy make sense? It's very simple to draw these levels. I know people like drawing just lines and they like to draw pivots and stuff, but they don't really take the time to understand what's happening at the pivots. And a lot of that's based on misconceptions about how price moves. And that, assuming that price goes up when more buyers step in, that's not the case. It's more ask orders get filled, and that drags the mid price up. And it's little stuff like that that I like to repeatedly talk about on these streams, because I want people to understand how things actually work in the market so they don't hurt themselves. All right, so looks like we're attempting to push into this upper range right here on EVAX. Now, I'm not going to trade this one because I want to keep my last piece of buying power for PEPG if I want it. But it's going to go up or down. This is not the time to buy this one, right? It doesn't, if you're using this strategy. Now, you do have a mini fib right here. Like, you've got this move right here. You can always make an argument to buy something, but when are you going to get out? What's your criteria to get out? And then based on that criteria, is the risk worth the reward? And vice versa, is the reward worth the risk? So in this case, I don't see an entry opportunity for this stock right now. Now I'm on the 1 minute also, so I got to keep that. Is the juice worth the squeeze? Absolutely. And you could even go farther, right? You could draw this candle right here, this specific candle, and we can make that yellow so it stands out among its peers. And we could say, okay, well, is the price going to touch this white box and then break out of this yellow box? And that right there is my trade opportunity. Or is it just going to kind of dangle around this yellow box plus and minus, right? It's got to push into the white box, and then it's got to push out of the yellow box if we want to see a bigger move, based on what we've seen historically. The squeeze is worth the juice. But is it? Delightful. All right, looks like bull is also doing a little bit of a move here. Nice little recovery on that for the day so far. Let's check 30-minute. I like it. That's a sign of strength, right? So I'll continue to hold my share. Doesn't have to be super crazy. SPRC, again, it's doing the same thing it did over here, right? Look here. See, we had the push over the high, we had the pullback, and then a push over that high, and then a pretty substantial move. Then we had a high, and then we had a pullback, and then we had a push over the high, right? This is how you form higher highs, higher lows. And now you're attempting to push over this high out of this zone of kind of violence. It hasn't really been tested much, so it's kind of a sketchier level, but it's still a level nonetheless. And we have an opportunity here to see if the price wants to push to the upside. PEPG is now down in my box, so I will consider adding one final share to this one if I like it. I don't really want it going below this box, and if it can't hold 5, I kind of just don't want to be in it. I'll probably just take the hit. But I don't want it to like come all the way down here and then add, and then maybe have it come up to like 470 or something. I don't want to do that. So I'm going to wait, and I say, okay, well, I've got a level, I've got a range here, and I've got a candle that points into that box. So now I need to wait for that candle to be broken if I want to trade a confirmation, right? Just like we did over here. So again, I'm just putting another share in the same area, which is normally what I don't do. But it's easy enough to justify. I got my hotkey set up, my checkbox is checked. So now I need to see a break out of this box, and I got to see it break over this this candle right here, which is 522. I would like to see an entry on. So I could put a buy stop order in place. So let's do that. We'll do a buy stop, and we'll do 522, and we'll do 1 share, and I'll see if I get filled on that. And then I can just look away, right? I'm either going to get filled or I won't. Looks like SPRC pushed and then it pulled back a little bit. Let me check back on EVAX as well, by the way. Well, well, well. Would you look at that? All right, so we tapped the orange or the gray box here and then pushed up, and that's kind of what we are looking for again on another move here. But we'll see if we actually get that that same move of violence. Right now, again, it didn't test this box down here for this opportunity, so it'd be a risky entry if we took a share on a break out of this box. Right, I'd rather see it push down into here, then break out, and then push to the upside. I don't want it just to dance around and kind of, you know, resist it a little bit. Okay, let's see what else we got going on here. XXII, 22nd century. I don't like it. All right, so what can we get out of this chart? The answer is nothing of use. There's just, it's garbage. We can look at the 5-minute, we can look at the 2-minute, we can scalp it directionally, you know, within the same candle, just like we did on CPOP. But this is the kind of stock where you just want to get in and then get out. Like, you don't want to hold this for a very long time. You know, 4% candle, 3.7% candle. I would personally shoot for like 2% profits, 2.5% profits on stuff like this. I don't really like holding for too long. This is abnormal volume. It just kind of pops in and then it falls off, just like it did over here. Can't really trade that reliably, so we're not going to try. FOFO just doesn't have volume. Great setup, great curl, all that good stuff, but the inconsistency in volume on the 1 minute at least is just going to drag the price around. It's not something we'd like to trade. It's got 1.38 million shares in the float, 6.67 outstanding, which means they got like 5.3 million shares restricted, which means they're probably going to drop an offering if the company wants any opportunity to raise cash. This is the kind of opportunity they like to capitalize on. And we don't want to be part of that. So let's take a look here. And again, the volume is not here right now, guys. It's consolidating into SPRC and it's contentious, which means if this falls off, that volume is going to disperse again, and then we have more opportunities. But it's probably going to turn directional at one point, and it's going to be upside or downside. Who knows? But I feel like a lot of the volume is just going to stay on SPRC today. In terms of this audience, I should say. Get a little sandwich there. All right, so what do we see right here? Okay, if I look at these candles, this block of candles right here, right? What do I see? I see piano keys, right? And what that tells me is I've got an area where the price is consolidating. It's fighting. It's contentious. So that tells me the likelihood of seeing a displacement out of that area into the next area is pretty high in most cases. Eventually, it's probably going to break. And that's kind of what we're seeing here so far. Now, if we puncture this low here, we have the opportunity to just push right through this level because this is a transient level now, right? So we're likely to come down to this guy. Now, if I zoom back out, this is also a transient level. And the only kind of reliable zone that we have might be down here now, right? Because this didn't exist before when I drew these. But we do have a nice clean punch right there that we can use as kind of a catch zone. So let's make that yellow. So if we fail, right, we're likely to come from here down to here in theory, right? Now there's always an opportunity for that to get disrupted, but that's kind of what we should expect, in my opinion. We shouldn't expect a whole lot of support in this box or even in this box if it fails. Because if it comes down, it's going to come down with intent. It's probably going to land in this box. But that is speculation, right? That's the whole point of speculative trading, is you have a theory and then you have to see if it manifests. So you have to see if you get outvoted or if people agree and vote with you, and that voting occurs in the process of participation, so buying and selling shares. So it looks like it punched through that first transitory level pretty easily and probably into a halt, because that's a substantial move. 13% over 10%, and a good chunk of that just happened there at the end. So I'm going to call that a circuit breaker. It's just resolving all the leftover pending orders. And we'll see. Does that make sense, though? Like, does everybody understand why I drew this yellow box and why I called these transitory? And more specifically, why I drew this box. Let me make that yellow as well. That's a high value range. Okay, and I've tried to share this strategy on every stream this week, and I've been using it, and I've been positive every stream this week. So if you guys understand it, put a 1 in the chat just so I know, and then I'll stop over explaining it, and put a 2 in the chat if it's confusing or there's a part of it you don't understand, so I know to elaborate. So top says 1. Top is awesome. There's no wrong answer. So if you don't understand it, let me know, because that's the only way we're going to learn stuff. Crispy, you're doing great, Pookie. Keep over explaining it. Okay, well, I can do that for you, buddy. I definitely over explain a lot. Porter is using complicated math. Charlie says 2 because I like hearing things a million times, so it sticks. Okay, that makes sense. So even if you do understand it, we can always just keep digging into it. But you understand the main concept, though, right? We're looking for consolidation before displacement. And when we see displacement, we want to make sure it's got consolidation around it, because that's the contention area that we need to look for the price to come back to. And then from there, when it leaves that area again, it's likely to be violent again. And the reason for that, I'll break down here in a second. I just want to catch up on the chat. Aston, do you stream every day? Yes, but there's a catch. And I'm not the sales guy, so don't view this next part as a sales pitch. I don't just stream in free. I'm the lifetime coach. I teach the lifetime members, and I work with them. And I also stream in premium on Monday and Friday morning at Market Open. MadMaverick streams on Wednesdays and Thursdays usually, but he has a family situation, so he's off this week so he can focus where he needs to focus. With that said, I am going to put a free trial link in the chat right here. And then I'll also put it on social media, and I'll also put the Discord link on the social. So anyone that's watching this on social media, if you're not in our Discord, jump in, because we have the free live streams in here. We don't always put them all on social media, so you want to make sure that you catch as much as you can. And the trial, if you join that wait list, if you click that, you'll go to a WAP page, and it'll just ask you to join a watch list or wait list. Sorry, Nikki will approve that on Sunday night, and then that'll be good from Monday through Friday. So you get a full week. But you also have access to the coaching streams. So Lee and Bull, MadMaverick, and the Swinging Bull, they do their coaching streams once a week as well. You won't have access to the lifetime one, because those members have kind of leveled up. Plus, they paid quite a bit more to get exclusive access. But you'll get the coaching live stream. You just won't be able to chat and stuff in there, and that's just so that it's not disruptive to the people who are paying. So you get quite a bit of access for those 5 days. You get all the alert channels and all that good stuff as well. But really, the coaching streams is where the value is going to be for you. And then, of course, I do my live streams, and Lee and Bull also have their own live streams. Bull does a options spread trading live stream that I think everybody should be part of. Looks like we're seeing a little bit of strength here so far in PEPG. So let's check on that. It'll tell me when I get filled, because I have this buy stop order in place. So if I get filled and we push up, that's okay. Oofed. Do you have levels drawn for SoFi? I don't, but let's do it. I want to use the same strategy. What are you looking for? A day trade or swing trade, or what are you looking for? I don't like SoFi for day trades. But if I come out here to the weekly, I can see a couple there. I'm just going to zoom all the way out so I get a nice broad view of it, and I can really see that clustering before the displacement. So what do I see right here? I see a bunch of clustering, and I see it catching an impulse, and I see it returning another impulse. So I'm going to draw a level right there, and I'm going to make it kind of a darker color because I am on a higher time frame, and I don't want to mess it up. But you can see this zone has been reacted to quite a bit, right? And then I see another zone right here, and then I see another one probably right around here, right? We got kind of a clustering. So these two are kind of close together. You can kind of count them as one, but it's also a significant little range there. We just happen to be looking at the weekly time frame. So, and then same here. I kind of see a clustering like right here, and then a push to the upside. So I'll make that a little bit lighter color. So now I got to go down to the daily time frame and say, okay, can I refine these at all? And the answer is yes. I can just combine these two because I see clustering catching an impulse, and I see it returning an impulse on this top box. And then I see the price reacting to the bottom one, and then the bottom one sending this impulse all the way up. I also see it catching this impulse, catching this impulse, catching this impulse, catching this one, sending this one, sending that one, sending that one, sending that one. So these two levels here are pretty substantial. So I like these. Now I need to also focus on this area here because I see 3 peaks, right? They're lower, but I see 3 peaks. So sorry, the camera is kind of obscuring that, I assume. So what can I do here? I see this cluster here and then impulse. So I like that. So let me just draw that zone. Probably right about there, right? That looks pretty decent. And I'll make that like maybe a little bit lighter of a purple. And then, yeah, I think that's about it. That's the only level I really need to draw. So now let's see where we're at right now. We're kind of above the high over here. So right now we're in price discovery, which means there's nothing we can use to base our analysis on in terms of historical data. We can't see where there was violence. So we can expect violence and we can prepare for violence, but we don't know where that might happen unless we look at the actual impulse that's forming. So do I see clustering? Do I see consolidation? Do I see sideways movement? Yeah, but it hasn't shown me that displacement yet. So I can't draw a level right here and say, yes, that's the top. That doesn't make any sense because I could have just as easily done that anywhere along the way. Right? So until I see a displacement, I don't know that that's a range that's going to have reaction to it. So in situations like this, I can do things like these pivots. I can just move my stop losses up from higher low to higher low. And then when the price turns around, it'll be one of two things. It'll be a little bit of chop or it'll be a displacement to the downside, right? That's how price works. So once I have my stop loss in place, if this develops into a pivot, so right now it'd be down here, right? Because I don't want to have I don't want to use an unvalidated low. I have to wait for this to validate before I can move that stop loss up. If the price moves down, I know exactly where it's likely to go. If it turns into a displacement, if it's chop, it's just going to hang out here and probably just give me what I'm looking for in terms of the the level that I'm looking for, right? And then if I get a displacement off of that, then I can just drop box. Does that make sense? So right now I have to operate based on information I don't have, which means I have to behave in a certain way. And that certain way indicates that I have to prioritize risk management and managing the unknown, right? So at any time, the price could draw down violently, okay? I don't see clustering here, so I can't draw a level. So this is not a range yet. So we're kind of in between, but we're still figuring it out. And I have to let the chart tell me when it's time to do whatever it wants to do. Sorry about the throat clearing, by the way. Death Gun, 2 losses for the day. What did you trade, buddy? What did you grab? Was it EVAX? All right, you can see it's showing more and more reactions to the zone that we drew. And again, it's no coincidence that this is where the price is stopping, or at least finding friction, right? I didn't travel into the future and draw these boxes, right? I drew them a while ago and they just happen to be respected. So that's all I need, right? Now I've got a range that I can look for trades. We could have done it a couple times at this point. But again, I don't really see that stronger retest of this deeper zone that I would like to see, and then a break out of this yellow zone. So I can't really commit too heavily to that, but we can just trade, or we can watch it and study it, right? We don't have to trade everything we see. You mean ATCH, Death Gun? Yeah, that's kind of a chaotic chart, man. That's a rough one. How tight was your stop loss? Like, what was your, how well did you manage your risk on that one? And PSTB was the other one. That's kind of a rough one, yeah. So what were you looking for in PSTV, by the way? Were you maybe catching like that or something? I don't know. Like, this is overall bearish. Like, if you look at that, unless you're just catching a bounce, that's going to be very difficult to trade because the bigger moves, the displacements here are lower and lower. So you've got kind of this zone right here, then a displacement, then another zone, then a displacement. Now you're forming another zone. You know what I mean? So ideally, we see these moving to the upside, or at least we see potential for bounces and things like that within the moves. But again, what the information you had at the time, okay, like if you had this displacement zone right here, okay, it's a small one, it's a transient level, it's very weak. But if this is the information you had at the time, you had a retest, you dip below it a little bit, you get another zone right here, right? That's stronger. And then, oh, there's a confirmation for a breakout. So it makes sense that you'd probably try to take an entry on that one. Plus you got the higher high, higher low angle. And then if you didn't have a stop loss, you would have just taken a hit on that one. But this provides a nice low risk opportunity, and it's perfectly understandable if you took that that kind of entry. So yeah, I mean, the goal here is to minimize risk, and it sounds like you did that. So 0.6 cents or 60 cents. 0.6. So I'm assuming you had like did you trade at like 60 cents then a 54 or something like that? Yeah, it's just working its way out right now. But I only really see these two zones down here anyway, right? Obviously, you got some, you get a little bit up here, right? Now, this is kind of a hard one to draw, right? You got this displacement, obviously. Man, let's draw that as like a darker orange, right? But the price has to react to something. It's got to bounce off one of these zones if we want it to go. So right now, it had a confirmation, it had an attempt, it had a break over the local high out of this zone. That was a perfect opportunity, in my opinion. Had increasing volume, all the boxes were checked. This would have been an absolute opportunity. It just happens to be too choppy and it stopped out. So you can't beat yourself up for that one. You manage your risk nice and tight on that. That's beautiful. And then it's kind of pulling down a little bit. So now we're in the middle, we're in like no man's land. Like, this isn't the time to get into stuff. So, you know, we want to see it test this zone and then push up. We want to see a sign of a show of life right here, and then take profits into or before this area on the majority of the shares. But there's not enough volume here to really look at this one with intent. So if you traded it, I'm confident in your analysis that you had a low risk opportunity, even if it was something like a color change or something off of this. And that it sounds like you managed your risk pretty well, right? And those are the only two things you can control, is your amount and duration of risk exposure. Everything else is up to the market and it's out of our control. So let me just peek back over here. It looks like we're still kind of hanging out, waiting on this one. It's got a little bit more volume than the others in terms of local candles, but it's still decreasing, and I don't want that. I want to see the price just pop. So the order book is stacked. We have a zone recovery algo on it. It's just not active. It needs some attention. It needs the price to push to attract the momentum algos. Then it can repopulate its orders. So basically, there's a bunch of orders sitting on the order book here. And these are kind of we can see the periscope of the submarine right here. It's just poking up out of the water. But we can't see all the orders underneath because they pulled them off the order book. So once we get some movement up, 525-ish, we should see a lot of those orders just flare back up, and we should see the order book light up. So there, I got my fourth share filled. We got a little bit of a pop in volume. We got 525 coming up here, and then we should see a bunch of orders on both sides. So let's watch and see if that happens. So it just kind of popped up out of nowhere. Well, that's happening. Let me just peek over here. All right, so it looks like SPRC again, just kind of reacting to the level we drew, right? We got the violent displacement. It's a mini displacement. It's not super strong, but it's still a displacement that's disproportionately larger than its peers. An attempt to pull back, and then another rejection. So this is going to be kind of a fight between these two, and it's a pretty close range. This is a transient level, so by default, it has a disadvantage, so it should plummet through that. And that should give it enough momentum to push down through this one as well, in theory. So we'd have to see what happens. But again, it's not a coincidence that it's reacting to this zone. It's an area where there's high participation. Think about it like a pile of people, right? You have to climb over the pile of people, and everybody's trying to climb over everybody at this level. So it's very difficult. So you're going to see people falling off one side or the other when you approach areas like this. So you're either going to run into that level and get like halfway up and then fall down, or you're going to absolutely run fast enough and just topple over those people, and you're going to end up on this side. And then that's going to act as a support. So if you try to come back, you're going to have to climb back over the other group of people. And that's how support and resistances really work as ranges. So let's see if we get another little pop in volume. We're still kind of under the water in terms of the order book. Like, we're not seeing the orders. They're not revealed yet. But I know they're on here because I have a zone recovery algo that's got 5 walls. It's 5 walls, 4 which are condensed on the bid. So we'll see if we can get that break of 525. Where are these piles of people, and what experience led you to that go-to analogy? Don't worry about it, Porter. I had a life before you knew me. I mean, technically, it's what it is. They're people. They're algos and people that are just piled into one small area, and you're trying to get to the other side, right? Everyone has a bag of money in their hands, and they're trying to get their money to their bank. So they got to get past the other people. It's a little bit like American Gladiators and a little bit like World War Z when you look at these zones. Delightful. Yeah, exactly. There it is. This is exactly what we're looking for right here. We got to get over that wall, guys. And you need enough people to stack up. That's a great visualization for supply and demand. Once they get over the wall, they're inside. And then they got to pile up again to get back down to the downside. Or the wall has to break, right? Death Gun, I'm off to class. I'll talk to y'all later. All right, man. Hope you have a good day in school. I know it's takes time, but it's worth it. And it's a great social experience. So make sure you make the most of that too. Don't just go for the degree, buddy. You've got networking. You've got developing interpersonal skills. Just credit fillers plus math. Well, be human. Like, go. Sorry. A lot of people just go to college for the grades, and the degree. But it can be one of the best times in your life just for social experience too. So make sure you get that. Don't deprive yourself. Sometimes you just got to pull people out of their shell. And when I say, great experience, it also gives you a good opportunity for social networking and things. And even if you're not like popular, if if you're awkward in person or you struggle with things, like, this is the best, I want to say, like, risk-free environment for you to practice and to develop those skills. It's a lot like high school. You're not going to see those kids after you get out of high school. You're not going to see any of these people when you're out of college, especially if you're going into game design and stuff like that. You're going to be working from home most of the time as a freelancer. So just go be awkward. They're not going to remember you if you are. It's all good. Everyone's an adult at this point. They can deal with it. But it's a lot better to get that awkwardness under wraps here when there's a much more modal environment. And then, it just, it's like a sandbox you get to play in, if that makes sense. And don't get attached to people. Don't do it, man. It's not worth it. There's some little life advice there. Do not get attached to people in college. It doesn't end well. Hanging up. Yeah, not NTC. crispy, not that sandbox or Afghanistan or anything like that. No. Vastly different experience, I bet. Don't need to talk to anyone. Don't see the purpose. I mean, that's fair too. If you don't see a value in it, that's okay. Just know that the opportunity is there and that there are benefits to it if you decide to take advantage of it, but it is your choice. You know your situation the best. And my only advice I think that I would offer is just to not get attached to people at college. Like, don't get super attached because you guys are just starting. You're all coming together and then you're all going to leave. It's like a summer camp that lasts for a couple of years. You guys are all moving across the nation. You're starting your careers up. You're starting families right after that. It just, it's not fun. So, I mean, be close, be connected, but don't get attached, like where you have expectations and stuff. You're floating with your group from high school. That works. I guess it kind of depends. Are you going to community college? Because you're going to see the same people in there for the most part. But after you get out of college, the likelihood of you seeing those people is very, very small unless you go into a certain type of industry. Like if you're going to law school, obviously you guys are going to know each other. In medical school, you guys are going to know each other until you get your residency and you have to move across the country. So DVLT is running. Let's take a look. Nice. All right. So what do we got? We got a zone, right? Charlie, you paying attention? Charlie. You see this candle? This one right here, Charlie? I'm just kidding. But you see that candle, right? You see this one? You found a textbook example. Thank you very much for that. So what we see here is an area which catches an impulse, and you get another one right here. And then you've got a displacement out of that area. It's a small one, so this makes it a transitory level, right? Boom, boom, boom. But you've got a beautiful retest and then a displacement out of there. So this validates the hell out of this level. You see that, Charlie? You see what you did? Come to Candy Mountain, Charlie. I like it. So good job. And you've also got consolidation right here into a displacement. So if this falls, two things are going to happen. It's either going to might catch some friction at that level and bounce, or it might fall through and catch some friction here. Or it might fall through that one and then catch some friction there. Or it might do what CPOP did and just go down to the depths of hell. This is the only thing we need to plan for if we want a secondary entry. If we're in, we can use the candle lows and move stops up and use pivots and all that good stuff to lock out partials and all that good stuff. But if we're looking for entries using this kind of analysis, you know that we've got a transitory level right here. Okay, so let me make that the same color orange or yellow, I guess. And then this one has validated. So I'm not going to make it transitory. I'm going to make it aggressive and strong because it's shown a displacement. It's acted in both directions as an absorption zone, and it's had contention with good volume and released from that area. So this is a great level. You found a really solid opportunity on that one. So good job. You can keep it. I need your kidneys. Well, you don't need both of them. Okay. Cost of medication is going to come down anyway, right? That's the promise. So at this point, is there anything I need to look for? I would say no. I've got a very easy set of structures ahead of me that I could look for. Now, I'm not trading this one because, again, I don't have $90 in this cash account, but this is the stuff we can look for. CYC, let's take a look. That sounds like a college. Oh, look at that. I already got a level drawn. What's up with that? Let's go to 30-minute maybe. Oof. All right. Look at that. Maybe I was on a higher time frame for that one. Look at that clustering. That is beautiful. See how it clusters and then it has an impulse. And then it has another violent rejection to the downside. So now if we can punch through that, that's great. We had all kinds of opportunity there. but this thing likes to give back its profits as well. So be careful. So this is another one where we'd probably just want to scalp it candle to candle and just get in and out. Or at least that'd be my take on it. I like it. Good find, guys. You guys are killing it. How is CPOP doing? Oh yeah, look at that. So again, cautionary tale. If you're not looking back at your losing trades, and either feeling something or not feeling something, but you are looking at the opportunity cost ones that blasted after you're not in it, and you are feeling something, then you got to fix that. So if I look at, let's say, SPRC, right? I got out here. The price pushed higher up to almost $9, and then it kind of pulled back, did some chop, and it's kind of working its way back down. Both times it went through this level, all three times, it was just a clean push straight through that level. We're probably going to see the same thing down here if it wants to. But that's, the important part is that we just get in and out, right? But if I look at this chart and say, oh man, I got out wherever, and then it went all the way up to 890, and I start beating myself up, and that's going to influence my next trade. But I'm not looking at stuff like CPOP and being like, oh man, I got out on time. I locked my profits at the top and it plummeted down to, below yesterday's close. Below yesterday's closing price. Sorry, the words were trying to come out, but the mouth wasn't working. Then I have an imbalance. I have a bias, right? And it's an expectation bias because I want to see more positive end results because that's how my brain is storing my experience, and I don't want that to happen. And that's it. I need to correct that before I let those kinds of things influence my trades. So let's watch SPRC and see if it plummets through this. This is another transitory level. So we'll see if it just slams to the downside or if it wants to bounce. Levels on the chart is one thing. I have tomorrow's watch list ? In my notes for one of today's tickers. Yeah. You got to be able to trade tomorrow's stuff. And can't do that if you blow yourself up. So it's no bueno. Also, let me check the schedule here. I want to make sure I got plenty of time with you guys today. I do not. No, I do. Shut up. I do. So Lee's coaching group normally would start at 11, so in about a minute. But he has his family situation, so I'm going to hang out here. I will close the social media stream down, though. So let me end the recording and all that good stuff. Thank y'all if you're watching on there. I'll put the Discord link in here as well. Make sure you do that. It's free. It's 100% free. And also, well, when that's done, I have to wait a second. I have one more thing that I wanted to post on there. And this link that I'm putting on social media is for an email sign up. We'll send you a reminder email every Wednesday night before this stream going forward. It's going to be MadMaverick. He teaches a slower, less volatile strategy. Definitely get that email reminder. It's 100% free. And I got to end the stream here, but we'll send you the link in that email. And you also get his free daily watch list every morning sent to your email. So let me end the recordings and the live streams and all that. I'll hang out in Discord with you guys, and we'll watch the rest of these trades work out, and then we'll wrap up. But let me end this.